Today on The Special Sauce, we are joined by the one and only Pete Watson from Mint Recruitment and Recruitment United. Pete has worked in the Rec2Rec space in the Australian market for, I think, well over 20 years now.
22, mate.
22. There we go. The man needs no introduction, but we will cover a fair bit today. Pete, welcome to The Special Sauce.
Thank you, lads. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Good to have you on. I think today is a good example of how far our industry has come when, you know, a couple of guys all from the same space, competitors on a podcast all at the same time. It's a recruitment agency owner's worst nightmare, I reckon.
Mate, I couldn't agree more. 10, 15 years ago, you would have spat on me in the street and I would have roundhoused you. But now we're doing a podcast together.
Times have changed. I love it.
Would have been good to get that on video if it ever did happen.
Yeah, probably not, but yeah, we take it.
Yeah. In all seriousness though, mate, thank you for coming on. I think, look, I've known you for a long time now. Actually placed me in a role a number of years ago. But I think we'll cover a bit today, not only about Recruitment United and what you're doing there, because I think, you know, you're doing some awesome stuff. We'll also talk in a little bit more detail just about you and I guess what you've been doing over the last 20 years in terms of what may have changed in recruitment. But first of all, just I guess for the listeners out there, obviously you're in Rec2Rec, we're in Rec2Rec. What are you seeing out there just in general at the moment? Hopefully you can validate some of the rubbish that we talk on this podcast with some similar themes to us.
Yeah, I can mirror some of the challenges that you're experiencing. I think the glory days of Rec2Rec mega activity are somewhat behind us.
Jeez, we timed that right, didn't we, Chrissy?
Thanks, man. It's going to be a good therapy session.
Get another job.
You made 7 placements this morning. Look, it's standards are high, right? Standards are high. Standards are arguably getting higher. I was saying to somebody a couple of days ago that not that long ago, it felt like you could get like a young lad or lass out of the UK with 2 or 3 years recruitment experience and a dubiously relevant degree, and you could get that person 3 or 4 job offers. Nowadays, it's difficult to get that person 3 or 4 decent interviews, let alone make the placement. And I just think the bar is higher. And that, that's not for the industry. That's not a bad thing necessarily. For Rec2Rec, it's challenging because the pressure is on us to find those strong local profiles. And, strong local profiles, there isn't a conveyor belt of recruiters up and down Pitt Street and Collins Street looking for jobs. So the bar is higher. I think there's a lot of, we're obviously recording this podcast early February, and there's a lot of optimism out there. We're talking the market up. However, let's be absolutely honest, 2026 hasn't really shown itself yet, right?
Yeah.
We don't know what 2026 is going to be like, and there's a lot of cautious optimism. I think most people are still living in the hangover of 2025, which was arguably one of the most challenging years we've had, with the exception of the pandemic, for a long time. So it's, but the caveat to all of this is recruitment is not supposed to be easy.
Yeah.
It's never been easy. Since the dawn of time, it's been a tough gig. And then the amount of times that I've been told that, I would never do your job for all the tea in China, Rec2Rec is harder still. Again, arguably the hardest space, and there'll be plenty of people that would challenge this, right? But arguably
Not us.
The hardest space in recruitment. So all you can do is wake up tomorrow and do the same thing as you did yesterday and ignore the noise around you and crack on.
Yeah.
I've been burying my head in the sand for 22 years.
Yeah.
Whenever there's external noise, that's my philosophy.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we've definitely seen some of the same stuff. I think, we're coming up to 4 years, and we've definitely seen, in the last 6 to 12 months, in particular, placing people coming from overseas. It is getting harder because I think a lot of agencies out here are a bit more cautious. Yeah. And you're right, the bar's higher for sure.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it's got to do sort of from that post-pandemic boom that we all had, right, in the industry. And we were fortunate enough to catch the sort of tail end of that as a business. But, you remember in a previous life where I was working as well, it was crazy times, right? People making crazy money, and those, 1-2 year recruiters, they were getting offers left, right and center. Whereas now it's, you're absolutely right, Pet. It's a lot harder to get them multiple interviews and definitely multiple offers, especially the ones from overseas, right? Yeah. If they can't prove that they've got, that business development capability and that ability to build, relationships quickly, it's going to be hard.
But don't get me wrong, people from the UK can obviously still get jobs.
Yeah.
But not those people that are only just surpassing the visa criteria threshold. Whereas those people used to be bread and butter. Sadly, those days are gone.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, mate, like obviously you've been doing this, as we touched on in the intro, for 22 years. You obviously over that time, you would have worked with a lot of agencies, a lot of different recruiters. I guess if you look 2026 compared to years gone by, how's the industry changed? Not so much Rec2Rec specifically, but what have you seen change in the way that recruitment agencies operate, what they do when it comes to trying to hire talent? Like what are you seeing out there?
It's really interesting, right? Because everybody, all the employers, all the recruitment agencies, subconsciously, they all still want those old school skills. And old school skills are primarily around business development. People can go out there and create their own fortune and catch what they kill what they catch rather. But that has to be blended, right? That has to be blended with this new wave requirement of, recruiters are not just salespeople anymore. They're not just salespeople, thick-skinned influencers like they used to be back in your day, Lee. Nowadays, you have to have a profile, you have to have a brand, you have to have a presence, you have to be seen as an industry expert, you have to be a marketer. You have to be a marketer.
Yeah.
Now you can be a silent warrior, like lurking in the shadows. Of course you can do that. But that's going to be way, way, way harder than being out there, having a public persona. And it's just going to be a longer journey if you kind of lurk in the shadows and depend only on old school skills. So I think employers now they need people with energy and personality and charisma and bravery and people who are prepared to take themselves out of the comfort zone. But I think it's nice because it opens the door up to a ton of people into our industry. If you think about those people back in the day, when I think about my first recruitment job, every single person in that large office you could have easily picked them up and put them onto the set of Wolf of Wall Street and they would have fitted in perfectly. And it was a horrible, brutal, dog-eat-dog environment. Not pleasant.
Yeah.
Whereas now, I think I might have said it to you guys, but I say it regularly. Back then, I would never let my kids go into recruitment. Now I would.
Yeah, right.
Now I would. Still a tough job.
Yeah.
But it's a nicer industry. Right? It's more empathetic. It's more colourful. It's more creative. But yeah, it's changed dramatically.
Yeah.
And I'm all for it. I think it's cool.
Yeah, I've definitely seen it as well. I think it's more that sense of community within recruitment as well, right? Like you touched on at the start, Lee, when 10 years ago, this would never have happened, right? It wouldn't be allowed to happen in the industry. Like I remember old bosses saying, don't even talk in the lift to, about what deals you've got on because it could be recruiters in the building and they'll hear something. And if you see that competitor, just avoid, eye contact with them and everything. Kind of like, well, why?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like what's the benefit of doing that as opposed to, sitting down, talking to the competitor? Right, you're not going to give your trade secrets away, but it's how you learn, right? It's how the industry how it improves. So I think that sense of community and that sort of dog-eat-dog world that it was, that's massively changed for the good.
100%. Like we used to be encouraged not to speak to our colleagues on the other side of the room in the first company where I was a perm recruiter and they were contract recruiters. And there was an invisible magic line down the middle. We weren't allowed to cross that line, and we were only allowed to talk to them in the pub.
Yeah,
yeah. It's so different now, and I think you touched on before about some of the old school skills, perhaps compared to what you need to do now. And I know obviously you've got a big profile on LinkedIn, and I think we certainly have done some of the same coaching that you've had from some guys out there in the industry. And it certainly helped us, but it's still kind of, I'm still shocked sometimes at a lot of people's, I guess, reluctance to put themselves out there on social. And you're right. You do cop a bit of shit sometimes. You got to be brave. But I'm also surprised that agencies don't really put more effort into the marketing or things, like the social media to win business for their recruiters. What do you reckon?
Well, I mean, and the stats are alarming, right? I don't quote me on this, but it's something like only 3% of recruiters post regularly on LinkedIn. And I think people get up in their own heads about it, and they think, well, that's not me, and I'll be so awkward and be so uncomfortable. But just something. It doesn't have to be video. All singing, all dancing. It can just be or standing in a plastic box or whatever you did and went viral. Just baby steps. Baby steps. Increase your confidence. But you're right. There's I think most recruitment agencies don't necessarily build it into their training. They don't truly understand the value of it. And if a recruiter is silent, invisible on LinkedIn, that's fine. Nobody really bats an eyelid. Whereas if a recruiter didn't pick up the phone and make 10 BD calls per day, they get pulled into the office and asked why. And LinkedIn content is arguably, if it's done properly and consistently, is way more powerful than those 10 BD calls per day.
100%. I think especially in this, day and age that we live in now, right? Like, I still think there's definitely a place for cold calling, right? And getting on the phone and speaking with, I think we touched on it the other day, right? And I'm a massive fan of it, but I think it's also got to be blended in with, call it, the social and marketing aspect as well, right? Because it's how you become known en masse in your in whatever sector or whatever desk that you're running. So, I still find it surprising that some agencies just have that hesitation as well for not so much building a brand for the business, but a brand for their recruiters or helping them build their personal brand.
And I'm on a journey to become the most followed Rec2Rec on LinkedIn in Australia. But there's a bloke that I just can't catch. He's sitting to your left. He's so annoying. Like every time I look at his followers, he's always got like 1,000 more than me, and I just can't catch him. Mate, it's doing my head in.
It's what happens when you've been in the industry for 47 years, luckily, right? You get to know a lot of recruiters.
Do you know what? I didn't realise until Pete mentioned that I had more followers than him on LinkedIn, and up until that point, I didn't care.
Now it's your mission.
Now it's my mission. I can't let him. Every Monday, I look how many followers has Pete got? How many have I got? Got to beat him.
You have to.
Can you imagine? There's going to be people from agencies listening to this, just going, have a listen to these wankers.
I imagine you at the weekends walking around Bunnings, looking for giant plastic boxes that you can stand in to try and do another viral.
That's all we do. Just think about ideas. What can we do? I just sit there.
And all else fails, put the kids on, photo of the kids, photo of the dog.
Or the dog.
Sorted. Sorted.
Yeah, the dog works for me.
Yeah.
When I'm desperate.
Yeah. But Pete, one thing I want to talk about, obviously, we mentioned before about, perhaps sometimes, in the past, competitors wouldn't talk to each other. But I think when we caught up the other day, this conversation helped us to work out that we both, Sorciety and you, have something in common. And that is we are both getting trolled on our websites by who we think is the same person. So, Chris, just explain, real briefly, give us a bit of a rundown.
So just a quick, I reckon it started, maybe 6-7 months ago. We, just on the Sorciety website, someone dropped in. It was a good bake. I thought it was like one of our mates basically saying, you boys are just two has-been hacks, have been in the industry for a while. You're the laughing stock of the industry, blah, blah, blah. And you kind of go, it's just probably one of our mates just taking the piss. And then about 2 months ago, it happened again.
Yeah.
And similar sort of message. And we were talking about it with Pete, and you got one as well. That was
and
very much the same language.
Yeah, and I got it at like 10:30 on Friday night.
Yeah,
looking forward to the weekend, and then suddenly, bosh, straight into my inbox. Yeah. Pete, you're a dickhead. You're a proper wanker. It's like no holding back from this character, and I was like, all right, okay, that's nice.
Well, that's the thing. And both times I had a look at ours again. It's I'm bringing up the trauma here. I should have just not even looked at it. But both times we've got them pretty late at night. Like the first one we got was like 1 o'clock in the morning or something, and the other one was about 10 o'clock at night. So I doubt they're listening, but if they are, would love to maybe
get them on the show.
Get them on the show.
Tell us how you really feel.
Yeah, let's all go out for a coffee. Let's hug it out.
Yeah, let's talk about our feelings.
Yeah, I mean, you should be doing other things at 1 o'clock in the morning and 10:30 on a Friday night.
Yeah. Market mapping and BD. Anyway,
100%.
Mate, what we really wanted to talk to you about, though, and we can see it there on your shirt, we want to talk about Recruitment United. So rather than me, start talking about it and giving an intro, we are members ourselves. But give us a bit of a rundown for those who perhaps aren't familiar with it. What is Recruitment United?
Mate, it's a community. It's a community of agency owners and agency leaders. And I'm not going to pretend when I started it roughly 15 months ago properly that it was going to turn into what it has turned into. And I'm delighted that it has, grown and iterated and grown legs, if you like. But I started it because fundamentally, after 22 years in business, in recruitment, I had no community around me. I had a ton of acquaintances, like you guys, ex-colleagues and, some mates in recruitment, but I didn't have a community or a network of people that I could talk to and engage with and seek counsel from and problem solve with on a daily basis. And I can't speak for everybody else out there, but having done this job on my own for 22 years, without a shadow of a doubt, there are times when it's isolating, dare I say it, lonely. And the number of times over the 22-year period I've thought, I just can't do this anymore. I'm just going to have to go and get a job. We'll go internal. But thankfully I never did. And then fast forward 22 years later, I thought, you know what? Before I limp out of the industry through the back door to little or no fanfare, I'm going to try and build a community and see if anybody else feels the same way as I do. And within a month, there was like 200 people in this community. Within 4 months was like 400. It just went bonkers. So I quickly stopped, took stock, and I thought, right, okay, so there's a need for this. There's a need for community, but we can't just be a noisy, whingy, Wild West WhatsApp group. No, there needs to be some structure and some purpose behind it. Yep. So let's try and solve problems for agency owners and agency leaders. And that's what we set out to do, to basically create a community, but also try and make the life of recruitment agency owners and leaders easier / better. And to some degree, in our own little way, it's working, and people are getting a lot of value out of it. And I'm remarkably proud of it. Yeah.
I think you're doing some good stuff, man. I think even, speaking for us, at least when we started our business 4 years ago, we weren't on our own. Like, there was the both of us. But, I think even just what some of the value and what we've seen with Recruitment United already, geez, we could have saved some money.
Oh, shit, yeah.
Like even just some of the groups about, like the different tech or, like how a lot of people can, like I've spoken to other people in the cohort about, different suppliers and things they've done. And obviously there's discounts as well. So,
but I think it's also, the outside of, the financial sort of discounts that come with it as well, right? It's the, speaking to people who've sort of been there, done that, right? Yeah. They've used the product or they've used the service, that's obviously relevant to us. And you get the good, bad and ugly. You get their experience, you get, their wisdom, their hindsight of what they could have done better when, starting out in whatever journey it is. So I think that's, for me, that's a big piece of value, right?
Yeah.
Being able to pick, you've got an issue in recruitment, whatever it is, speaking to, hundreds of people potentially.
Yeah. Yeah.
And finding that right person in that group that, hey, who's the expert? So
yeah, there's things going on. Again, I didn't know these things were going to happen when I started the group. I put in place initiatives or services within the community. And those services are fundamentally, we have learning and development training webinars every week. I was trying to do them fortnightly, but I get a bit excited and I tend to make them every week. So there's going to be at least 45, 50 webinars this year, which are essentially delivered to the community. There'd be comfortably well over 200 grand's worth of training for, between 0.5 and 1% of that in terms of the cost of what the members pay. So there's the training, there's the discounts. We've got about 60 products, services, tools VA suppliers, software tools, AI tools, CRMs, it's all discounted. So these are the things that I put in place, thinking, that'd be great, that'd be enough. And to some people it is. But some of the magic, to your point, Chris, happens in the discussions, right? Not only is the community solving each other's problems, but they're stopping each other going down rabbit holes. And people have told me time and time again that they're not only saving tons of time by not going down a rabbit hole with a certain product or a certain AI this or an AI that, but they're not doing the demo. They're not spending tons of money. They're not committing to contracts on a product that they're not going to like. And in this day and age, that's invaluable because recruitment agency owners and leaders are bombarded with products. Recruitment United might be one of them, but they are bombarded with products endlessly, dawn till dusk. And this community is saying, yeah, it's great, give it a crack. And some are saying, no, don't, I tried it and it was awful. So it's just another example of community helping each other.
Yeah. How many members do you have now?
350.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. So, and that's been done with no sophisticated sales process. That's just word of mouth. Again, LinkedIn content, could not have done it without LinkedIn content. And of late, I've been cold calling and loving cold calling, loving picking up the phone and just ringing people randomly and selling the concept of Recruitment United to them. We should comfortably hit 500 by Christmas. And then, I might have to take the whole thing a lot more seriously then. At some point it can't be a side hustle, as the kids like to call it. At some point I'll have to put on my big boy pants and start doing it properly. But the moment, Rec2Rec day job, Recruitment United also day job.
Yeah, right.
What's any sort of really good success stories come to mind, specific from clients, or customers that have used Recruitment United? Outside of, say, potential cost savings or anything like that? Any that come to mind?
Yeah. I mean, so we had a gosh, there's tons. I mean, there's nice emotional community-based things that are happening that sometimes you just don't see. And then there are economical wins.
Yep.
There's a chap up in northern New South Wales who sat in on one of our L&D sessions about winning retainers or pitching retainers. And he said, where I live, like, people don't know what the word retainer means. Like, I've got no business talking to people about retainers. And he said, but he did a 45-minute webinar on retainers with Recruitment United, went back to his desk the following morning, looked at his desk, he had 16 contingent jobs. He kind of split them in half, took 8 at random, pitched retained to 8 of those clients, with the confidence that he now had having done the course. 6 of them said yes to the retainer. And essentially he trebled his revenue for that quarter with one morning's work.
Yeah.
And he got that confidence to pitch retain from Recruitment United. We had one of our larger clients recently did a full CRM transition, saved close to $10,000.
Oh, wow.
Like mental money. I heard recently about 2 ladies who met on Recruitment United, started chatting. Conversations got deeper. They found they've got a lot in common. They've just been on holiday together. So friendships are forming. There was a guy recently who was having a really tough time. And, I said, can I speak to the community and see if they can help? And it was just before Christmas. And the group with that hesitation said, right, well, let's start a GoFundMe. Let's try and get this guy and his family through Christmas. So there's big wins, there's big financial wins, but there's also some lovely community-based things that are happening in the background. But I've done the research. I've started to understand the importance of data. I never know the right way to say it.
You're still using a spreadsheet, aren't you?
You've
never had a CRM?
There's no CRM in my life yet. I need to get it. I'll get a CRM eventually, just before I retire. But I am told, they're like, look, I'm told that our membership retention rate is 92%. So only, 8 in 100 people who join are leaving. I'm told that 91% of the community tell me that they bill more by being part of the community, and 89% are telling me that they save more by being part of Recruitment United. So I'm hoping that the data is backing up what I'm banging on about. But yeah, there's wins every day.
Yeah. What's the typical Recruitment United member look like? Like, is it, you mentioned some larger agencies there. Like, is it 1 and 2 man bands? Is it some bigger guys? Like, what are you seeing in terms of the actual member base?
Well, this is the thing. If I'm honest, it started for definitely people like me.
Yep.
Arguably people like you, smaller businesses, micro businesses. But very quickly, I started to get approached. Once I built this body of L&D, I started to get approached by bigger businesses because they knew that for a value for money perspective, there probably wasn't a source of recruitment training in Australia that provided as much bang for buck. And now we've got a ton of small businesses like you and I, but then we've also got a growing population of bigger businesses because recruitment leaders, there's a lot of them out there that if they're honest, when they look in the mirror, they all say the same thing, which is training and development is so important to us, but we could definitely do more.
Yeah.
And Recruitment United is an affordable provision of that. So there isn't really an easy answer or a straightforward answer to your question because it's available to anybody.
Yep.
It's one-stop shop, mate.
You touched on there, like, I guess, smaller agencies, larger agencies. I think something that we have seen over the last, 12 to 18 months in particular is so many agencies or people starting up agencies, and that micro agency, whatever you want to call it, are becoming, much more prevalent. What's your thoughts on that stuff? Like, just with all the new agencies opening up in the market.
It's bonkers, isn't it?
It's crazy.
I mean, it's mad. I remember when I started up, admittedly, it was 22 years ago, and it was embarrassing. It was kind of embarrassing to be a startup. There was a lot of imposter syndrome because we'd all been brainwashed into thinking that you can't start your own recruitment company. Who do you think you are? You will only get access to the tools that you need to be successful in a big agency. And how dare you, this kind of thing. So you would do things like put landline numbers on your website that didn't exist. You would put multi-site addresses on your website that didn't. And I actually still see this today every now and then. If you do a deep dive on some websites, you will see multiple addresses and you think, there's no way you've got 4 offices across Australia.
Yeah.
But whatever. And, I remember my first website, I dragged in a few mates and made everybody wear mint t-shirts to make it look like I had a team. And it was all smoke and mirrors. Whereas now, you can be a tiny business and be accepted. There has never been a more embracing time of micro businesses. That might be to do with COVID. I think it's just the way the world is going. I remember doing a late night reference call with my baby on my knee because it was like 10 o'clock at night and the reference was in the UK. This is like 10, 15 years ago. And the baby started crying and I could hear the disgust coming from the other. Why are you calling me with a baby on your knee? And I felt so unprofessional. Whereas now, nobody would give a flying fig tree. Yeah, they just don't care. In a lot of ways, you are congratulated for going out on your own. So I think there's 2 things that's happening. 1, it's been accepted and embraced. And 2, it's never been easier because all of these tools that have usually been the private domain, the exclusive domain of the big agencies, they're available to everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody. Arguably a small business owner can work much faster, much nimbler, if that's a word, than they could if they worked at a big recruitment company. And they can just turn everything around so swiftly.
Yeah.
No, 100%. I think you're absolutely right. It's the barriers to entry, right?
Yeah.
In this day and age, most people work from home anyway, right? So you don't have the office, the big office costs. It's a laptop and a CRM, which they're not that expensive these days, right? Thankfully, especially if you're with Recruitment United. So
yes, Chris.
Just got to get it in there, But I think that's what you just said there before about taking a reference with your baby on your lap, right?
Yeah.
You're right. 10 years ago, that's just almost not acceptable. Now it's like, fuck, we've realized everyone's a human being, right?
Yeah.
And, the challenges that come with that and life and everything, and people embrace it. So I think as, people build up that expertise, they build up their own brand in their space, they can become that expert, whether it's accounting, whether it's sales, whether it's marketing, whatever it is, they become that expert, not necessarily the business.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the changing faces I've seen in recruitment as well.
Yeah. And the beautiful thing about recruitment is, unlike a lot of industries, you can literally set up with a phone and a network. I don't even think you need a website to get started. I mean, no. I think people put way too much pressure on themselves about having all these things in place. You can easily bash out 3 invoices before you start worrying about the fancy website and the AI this and the AI that and the CRM and everything. I'm not telling people to cut corners and do shortcuts, but just get the invoices paid first. But the beautiful thing about recruitment is, you don't need stock, you don't need staff, you don't need premises. You just crack on from the kitchen table and just create your own destiny. It's wonderful.
Yeah, it is. And I think, that competition is good for the industry as a whole. And, I've mentioned before, I'm really keen to see what happens over the next, 3 to 5 years in particular, because I think that right now there's a massive gap in terms of recruiters that are coming, that are new, that are coming into the market. And I think even for the, younger recruiters who are in their, say, early to mid 20s, maybe even late 20s, what they're looking for from a company and a manager in terms of their work setup is very different to 10 or 15 years ago. And I don't know, I just feel like some of the, if you're an older established agency, it's really hard to pivot or change to be able to accommodate, I guess, what people want these days. So, I think some of these newer agencies that are popping up are in the prime seat to start pinching and poaching some of that talent. So I'm really keen to see what's going to happen over the next 5 or 10. It's going to be interesting to see what it looks like.
Yeah. What do you think, Pete? Who do you think, in terms of not who the companies are, but the types of agencies, right, that are going to really, flourish, attract good people over the next, say 2 to 5 years? What do you think they're going to be able to offer or do different?
I think the recruitment industry is going to be unrecognizable. I think it already is unrecognizable today to what it was like 15 years ago. Yeah. And I think it's going to keep changing. It's just going to keep changing. We're not going to be that, aggressive, I keep using the phrase Wolf of Wall Street, where if we're going to be honest, that hasn't existed for many, many years. We're just going to become much more empathetic, friendlier, safer, less pressured environments. And I know that there'll be people listening to that and go, well, that's crap. I don't want to be part of that. And that's fine. But that's just the world. That's just the way the world is. That's just the way the world is. And I think there are plenty of businesses out there that still operate with a bit of an old school mentality. And that's fine. And they're super successful. But those businesses won't exist. They just won't exist in 10 years' time. Yeah, they just won't. And the businesses that do exist will be these new age, new wave recruitment companies that just do things so dramatically different. And I think the cornerstone to that will be branding. Yeah, branding, profile, how they present to market, the cultures they create, the type of people that they have in the businesses, and that old school element will just dilute. It'll just peter out.
What do you reckon? We get asked this all the time. Keen to get your thoughts on it. What do you think will happen in the next, 5 to 10 years, whether it's just in recruitment or work life in general? What do you think will happen when it comes to remote working for roles like a recruitment consultant? Do you reckon we're going to see less of it being offered or more?
It's so interesting, isn't it? Because there's been such a yo-yo on this subject. So when COVID happened, obviously, stating the absolute bloody obvious, nobody had a choice.
Yep.
So recruitment companies that would never have dreamed of it were forced to do it. And there was one particular company in Sydney who were somewhat pioneers in the whole 9-day fortnight. And they were very quick to release data on the point that they had not seen productivity diminish. If anything, productivity had increased. However, what was really interesting when things got tough again they kind of ripped up the 9-day fortnight, and everybody has to be back in the office. So there's still this, and I do get it. I do get it. But I think there has to be so much said for being in an office and being surrounded by people and being surrounded by experience. There's just going to be people that want and desire and deserve to be able to work from home when they want as well. I think if the industry goes the way I think it's going to go, and you have the ability, or you want the ability as a recruitment employer to get the best people, and the best people are often the experienced people. And the experienced people are often the people with kids and drop-off responsibilities and all that stuff. There has to be a level of flexibility.
Yeah,
there has to be. Otherwise, you just not going to get those people. You're going to miss out on those, 10-year veterans of the industry.
Yeah.
So look, I don't know. It's crystal ball stuff, isn't it? But I think if the industry does go the way I think it's going to go, I think that's going to slowly creep back in.
Yeah. It's so interesting. Like, I remember speaking to a agency owner not so long ago who them and their business partner are fully remote. They want to try and build and grow and scale the business, but obviously, part of doing that is building a culture and whatever else, and
trust.
And so for them, it's kind of like they want to grow the business. It means we've got to get people in, but for them and their lifestyle and why they set up the business, that doesn't necessarily make sense, right? Yeah. So yeah, I think it's a bit of a minefield for agency owners, that stuff for sure.
And it's trust, right? When you hire somebody, that relationship starts with the best intentions, and everybody's going to make it work, and everybody loves each other, and you want to trust those people. And you want to trust that when they're not in the office, they are working hard. But there's never going to be any guarantees that that's the case. Hire for that business that you're talking about, doing fully remote, that's hard. That's so hard. But if you can attract the right people with the right experience, who you can trust, my God, that's amazing. Because more and more will just follow.
Yep.
But that's tough.
Yeah. Yep. Recruitment United, you mentioned before that in terms of growth, you'd be hopefully at 500 members by Christmas. What from there? What does it look like for Recruitment United, do you think?
I mean, look, I haven't really allowed myself to kind of think big picture, because I'm sort of still waiting for this. I'm still waiting for it to I think I'm now accepting that it's going to grow into something. Whereas it's like anything in life, right? You start something, you kick it around, and you never truly know what it's going to turn into. But now I think I've seen enough evidence, I've seen enough growth, I've had enough feedback, I've seen enough value being given to the community that I know it's got legs, and I know I need to push it. And me being me, I will run at it at 100 miles an hour. So to answer your question, look, if we can get to 500 people, 500 members by Christmas, at which point we'll be less than 2 years old. Gosh, I don't think it's mental to think that in another 2 or 3 years we couldn't be 1,000 members, right? At the same time, in fact, this is probably a good time to announce it. I've been in pretty advanced conversations with a Rec2Rec in the UK, who I know, like, and trust and rate. And she actually approached, she's actually part of Recruitment United as well. And she said to me, why aren't we doing this in the UK? So, well, time differences, I've got enough of a job on my hands policing the WhatsApp group in Australian hours, let alone in the middle of the night. And she said, well, look, I'll do it. I'll run with Recruitment United in the UK. So we're about to launch Recruitment United in the UK.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Now, there are already other communities in the UK, but, every community is different, right? I think we do offer a different tone and vibe to the other communities, and we'll see how that goes. So the short answer is probably the goal, the dream will be 1,000 members in Australia, and then, a thriving community in the UK as well. At which point, we can probably look in the mirror and go, cool, we achieved something. We did something.
That's awesome. Absolutely. Yeah, that's awesome. And I think obviously with the UK market being, how many times bigger than the Australian market, right? How many agencies? the opportunity's going to be there. So I think, if you can, build that both on, both in the South and Northern Hemispheres, it'd be absolutely massive.
Be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Be very cool. It'd be absolutely awesome.
Hey, Pete, couple final 2 questions.
Yeah.
If you could go back to 2005 and speak to Pete Watson right then, at that point in time, what advice would you give him?
Yeah, that's kind of easy. I would tell him to chill the fuck out.
A bit loose, was he, young Pete?
No. Sorry, no. What I meant by that was the job of recruitment for me then, and for many years after 2005, was very stressful.
Yeah.
Like I died for every placement, and every dropout was like a death in the family, and I just persecuted myself, and I'm not sure why. Like it was just, I don't know why. I mean, this is, I could maybe lie down on this sofa and we could turn this into a shrink session.
We wouldn't get far with us.
We got way more problems than answers. So,
but my point is, I stressed in my job, even though things were going well. Like things were going well, and money was all right.
Yeah.
But I just dragged myself over the coals year after year after year, and then I can't tell you exactly when it was, but it actually wasn't that long ago. A few years ago, maybe 3-4 years ago, I just suddenly had an epiphany. I thought, fucking hell, everything's going to be all right. I stopped stressing about dropouts. Only recently, I had a candidate in the UK coming over, pretty senior guy, and it was between me and another job, but 35 grand fee. And I sort of, towards the end, I thought, it's not going to go my way. He's going to go with the other job. Didn't really care. Don't care. And that's not because I don't care about my job. Of course I do. And I would have loved the placement, don't get me wrong. But ultimately, I wasn't going to go around to this guy's house with a loaded gun and tell him to sign a contract. And I've done things like that before. I'll never forget, I had a guy in London. All he had to do was turn up for the 3rd interview and he was going to get the job offer, and he didn't turn up. And I knew where he lived because his address was on his CV, and it was around the corner from where I lived at the time. So I jumped on my scooter and I went around his house and I just knocked on the door. I said, mate.
You actually did it?
Yeah, knocked on his door. But here's the funny part though. His flatmate opened the door and I said, hi mate, it's Dave in, please.
Yeah.
He went, who are you? Oh no, maybe he didn't even ask who it was. He went, oh yeah, no, he's still in bed, I'll go and get him. He said, sit down. He said, do you want a cup of tea? I said, I'd love a cup of tea. So his flatmate made me a cup of tea. And then Dave came downstairs in his dressing gown and saw the recruiter sat on the sofa having a cup of tea. At which point I berated him.
That's the greatest recruitment story ever.
Did he sign the contract?
No, I don't think we got the wheels back on. Anyway, my point is that's what I used to be like. I'm not like that anymore. Yeah. And about 3-4 years ago, I just thought, do you know what? Just put some faith in the universe. Everything's going to be all right.
Yeah.
Everything's going to be fine. So that's the number one piece of advice I would give to myself in 2005, but also to anybody who just allows this job to get on top too much. Just chill out. As long as you do the right things day in, day out, do the basics well, and treat people with respect, you'll be all right.
Yep.
Something we need to listen to as well, Lee.
I reckon.
That's good advice.
But I think with that advice there, that brings us to the end of today's show. Pete, thank you so much for coming on today, mate, and sharing your insights. As I kind of said earlier in the on this episode, look how far we've come as an industry.
Yep.
Couple of old.
You guys are old. I'm not.
Couple of old recruitment battle axes. Having a chat on a couch, mate. Enjoyed having you on. Enjoyed some of your stories. Thank you, and all the best with Recruitment United.
Thank you, lads. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
No worries. Thanks, Pete.
That's a wrap for this episode of The Special Sauce. We hope that you're walking away with some insights that you can actually use every day on your desk. If you enjoyed the conversation, follow, like, subscribe, or leave a review so we can reach more recruiters just like you. For more about Sorciety, check out our website on society.com or follow us on LinkedIn. Thanks for listening, and see you next time on The Special Sauce.